No, I never said that. I've never said that positive reinforcement is crap. I just don't think. I don't think that negative reinforcement doesn't do anything. Because people are saying that negative reinforcement doesn't do anything with pets, and I'm like, BS, it doesn't.
The positive
I'm not
reinforcement's
saying you
better.
rub your dog's nose and poop or beat the crap out of them, but you can spank them on the backside a little bit. Because, I mean, anytime an animal feels really guilty, isn't that kind of like a negative, like, that's like a negative reinforced thing?
Yeah.
Like, you don't just reward them when they do the right thing, you also see them doing the wrong thing, and you're like, bad, bad. That's negative reinforcement.
Yeah.
You yell at them, you don't give them their favorite food, you don't give them a treat, and they. I feel like any animal that ever puts its tail between its legs is like, oh, I'm sorry, That's because of negative reinforcement. And you can see them, all this behind the scenes footage we have now, you can see them literally like, oh man, I don't know if I want to do this.
Right.
You can tell they're thinking about it and weighing it. Alright, enough about that. I mean, not necessarily enough about that, but I'm just saying. Okay. I should look up what the best vehicle combination is. I'm sure it's like...
I'm sure it's not these.
Look up what the pros use. I actually had a student in my class recommend a show.
What?
Or a video, or documentary.
Okay.
That I watched today. It was called Paradise Lost. It was about the West Memphis 3, the West Memphis 3. It's like 3.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Last podcast and Love did a 3-part episode about them. That's...
The guy just got out like 4 years ago.
I didn't bring it up in class the other day when we were talking about capital punishment, but I mean, the one guy was, I'm pretty sure just one of them was like up for the death penalty.
Yeah, I think Damien was the guy with like the black hair or whatever.
Yeah.
It was so infuriating because to like see like the slimy kind of like political tactics that lawyers use of just the age-old thing of being like anything that a young person, like every group of people who was like 35 or older is just automatically annoyed by anything that young people are doing, and it's like and they'll just find any excuse to punish people for it,
being different or okay, to be fair though, that guy Damien didn't do himself any favors, and I know that I think he acknowledged that, like, in his book.
Yeah.
Like, I said some really stupid shit.
Yeah, in the interview, it was just the kind of thing where... The thing that gets me about this kind of stuff is that... And I saw the trial, they videotaped the trial and a lot of the things, and it's like... The thing that gets me about this kind of stuff is that there are certain things about humanity because people are, I don't know how any other way to say it, but they're like conceptually weak. I think this is the thing when I ever tell you about the edgy, there's an age, right? Like the age between like 16 and 23 or 24 or something, when men kind of feel the need to like stick it to something.
I mean, women do too. I mean, there's just it's a rebellious age.
And it's rebellious not just, like, in terms of, like, I'm gonna do something, but it's very rebellious in terms of, like, I see the world.
Like, yeah, it's like a rebellion against, like, your parents, society.
Well, I mean, like, it's like a conception. Like, it's like, I'm the one who sees the world and other people don't see it. And it's kind of like how you go into something, like, just think about, like, job interviews, right? So, you would think, the common sense thing would be like, oh, you go into a job interview, you answer the questions and are honest and maybe introspective or something like that, and people want to see, like, a genuine thing. It's like, no, that's not it at all.
They have specific answers they're looking for.
It's like, no, it's coached and fake. And
where do you see yourself in 5 years? At this job?
Yeah, everybody lies and about the same things, and everybody knows that everybody lies.
Yeah.
And they just kind of assume that it's like, well, if everybody knows that everybody lies and everybody's always trying to put their best foot forward, in an interview than if somebody is not seeming like perfect, or they're not, then they really are like that, or they really are worse than that, and that's the best they got. Not like, oh, well, this guy's being really, really genuine with his answers, or no, it's it's like a, it's just like this weird thing, and I feel like at a certain age, Earl, hey,
Pause it.
Okay, come on. Nope. Nope.
Sorry, gotta put the cat up.
Maybe someday you'll learn to just stay where you were. Oh, I got my auto go. Come on, buddy. And I was listening to some of the responses he was giving, and he was saying things that are like really obviously true, but they make him look bad to the jury. It was like in the interview. You ready?
Yeah.
Well, let me turn this thing off. Okay.
Is
Ready?
My normal.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was saying things like, in the interview, he was like saying like by the police. He was like, oh well, whoever did this probably enjoyed it, and they're like grilling him about that.
Which, yeah.
At trial,
I mean,
they're like, whoever did this probably enjoyed it. He's like, well, I was just using common sense, because they asked him why would somebody do this. He's like, well, probably because they enjoy it and it makes them feel powerful, because that's why people do things like that.
Because if they didn't want, why else would they do it?
Right, exactly. And that was what he said, basically, in the trial. And it was like, but that's one of those things where it's like a pearl-clutching moment for the jury. How would he know that And it just makes you mad, because you know that there's a bunch of simpletons out there, who don't think about things. And they want to think that they're so, like, above it, or whatever. And it's really funny because, nothing against the victim's dad, because
problematic.
He 7-year-old son was murdered viciously murdered. But the guy had some serious bloodlust that he was airing during this documentary, and like the families were airing this stuff.
Yeah.
And and again, this is like 1993 or something, and very like, it always gets me when people are like, that the thing about prison for them, the only reason they're able to accept it is because they're homophobes, and they have this conception that prisoners are gonna get raped and molested and stuff, and they're like, I'm gonna send him a skirt. I'm gonna do this, and it's like, yeah, way to have some class. These good Christian people.
I didn't know about that part.
Yeah, no, it was like in one of the mothers of the victim. Like the one guy was a little more like, whatever, but his wife was like, whew.
Yeah.
She was, and again, it's not the kind of thing where I don't. Obviously, when your child is murdered, you kind of have the right to feel any way you want to feel about it.
Yeah.
But they were demonstrating some real bloodlust. I mean, they had that guy like, they showed him like shooting targets. He's like, this is that guy. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I I shot you in the head and you're still squirming down there? He's like shooting at targets and stuff.
Oh, geez.
He's like, oh, it's a good thing that you guys are gonna get locked up, because if I was out there wandering around, one of the women was saying, if you guys were out there wandering around, I'd kill you.
Well, and it's really sad as well, because, like you said, it's such a gruesome crime, and there was no justice in that, because the person who did it is still out there.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying before about, in my last class, I was talking about, I feel like we're in this age of, like, feel politics. I think we've gotten to this point now where everybody kind of realizes that the only thing that matters is that they feel good about what's happening.
Yes.
Like, it seems like everybody has kind of resolved themselves to the fact that the reality of things, it sucks and it's not getting any better, but they just want to, like, get a good feel out of it.
Right.
Before the whole thing collapses or whatever.
Because,
And, the whole system's screwed, and it's going to be like that forever, but at least I can feel better about it. At least I can see some people I hate, get punished. Mm-hmm. And that's the most I can hope to get out of it. Like, I seriously feel like that's this weird prevailing attitude we have. not we, as you mean you, but
No,
there is
society, Americans.
Yeah.
Americans are very, like, bloodthirsty, very, very focused on revenge and the idea that, like, something has to be somebody's fault and somebody has to be punished for it. Except, when it comes to, like, big crimes like, banks taking people's homes and shit and losing everybody's money and nobody gets punished for that, that's fine. But I don't know. I mean, and it's also really terrible because, again, like I said when we were talking in my class the other day about capital punishment and innocent people being in prison, the guy Damien's, like, almost blind now.
Yeah, I saw that his vision was failing.
Because
I mean, it's really, like...
Because he was in solitary for so long.
Yeah.
And
God.
that's he's a young guy.
And I'm pretty sure his, props to her, I'm pretty sure his wife, who he, like, impregnated right before he was arrested.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
What a trooper.
And I'm pretty sure they married while he was, like, in prison or
prison.
something, and they stayed together. I think. I didn't look into it, like, a whole ton.
Sure.
It was just like, wow, man. God. That's time you're never...
That's a rough crime.
And, did you know about, like, the possible who really did it, though?
The stepdad?
Oh, well, that was one possibility. But apparently, like, that day or around the same time... It's so crazy. Like, around the time, I want to say, like, the murders... I don't know if the murders were discovered on the same day. I don't remember. But apparently, like, that same day, at a Bojangles restaurant that was, like, a couple miles away, they called the cops on a black man. Not that it has anything to do with the fact he's black, but that's the only thing they know about this guy because they didn't catch him or talk to him or anything. I guess, like, the manager of a Bojangles chicken place in town, a couple miles away from the murder, walked in on this guy in the bathroom with blood coming down his hands.
And shit.
Or his forearm. He had blood coming down it. And yeah. They called the cops and never saw the guy again, and he was gone.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I guess it was like the kind of thing where the cops literally, like, weren't like, oh, that's weird, a guy is seen with blood all over
they
him.
had their suspect from when you say go.
Yeah.
Like, that, and that's so infuriating that it's like, it's a West Memphis, it's like, that's a town, right? It's not actually, like, it's not like the west side of Memphis. It's like...
Yeah, it's a separate place.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
And I'm sure it is west of Memphis, but yeah, it's not... Yeah, anyway, but, like, you're talking tiny-ass town, trailer courts, like, not a particularly cultured place, and so anybody that's even a little bit different...
Yeah.
You're suspect number one.
Yeah,
and
it was like this guy had, like... He had, like, one book he picked up at a garage sale.
Yes,
about, like...
yeah.
The kind of stuff that people think is interesting when they're, like, 16.
No, they
I
literally...
got a copy of the Anarchist Cookbook here.
They literally talked about all of this on last podcast
gosh.
on the left, because they were like, this could have been any of us.
This is so pathetic.
We would have been, like, a suspect, because, he's an edgy teen who says stupid shit just because he thinks it's funny.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and people... And also, not to mention, this was, like, right after / during that satanic panic crap.
Yeah.
So,
It's really funny, because if it had been 1999, it would literally... There would have been more kids like that than not.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah.
He listens to Metallica. It's like, I don't know, a single kid... And it's really... The stuff about, like, Metallica being satanic, for starters, is so absurd. There's no band that uses more biblical references that I know of than Metallica.
Yeah.
They've got so much Old Testament stuff in their songs. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure David Hetfield was some kind of, like, Christian scientist who grew up somehow.
Still says it's out for delivery.
Yeah, it was really infuriating to see that stuff where it was like, oh, did you, like, the police, or I shouldn't say the police, the state's witness on, like,
She was that woman, right?
No, there's obviously more than a witness, but there was a witness who was, like, the expert on like Wiccan stuff or whatever.
Uh-huh.
The guy had like a mail order degree.
Yeah.
Or something
Right.
like that. And he's like, "Oh, I'm the expert." He's like, "Yeah, this has to do with like Wiccan stuff." It was like a pentagram. It's like, "Oh, interesting."
Yeah.
You know, like I could have told you that. Oh yeah. And there's some like they're looking at the book. They're like, "There's some red writing in here. He wrote it in red ink." And he's like, "Well, I bought the book and it already had writing in it."
Just shit like that.
Just like stuff like
it's really sloppy
like,
police work. And...
so much stuff that was just like, hey, let's make him realize that we don't like this kid.
Yeah.
And get them to be guilty. And it was just infuriating for that reason, because you know that there's so much stuff like that where it's like, let's just establish that none of us like this person.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they'll just find him guilty.
And let's not bother to look for the real person who did it.
Although I do kind of agree with Damien when he was getting locked up. Like, what happened was they tried both the boys together.
Yes.
And I do agree that, like, you know, Damien, just because he was older and obviously he had a bit more of a kind of a general, like, chip on his shoulder the way every 17-year-old boy does.
Well, especially if you're too smart to be in your little shitty town.
Yeah. But he was, the other one was very obviously, like...
There's one that's, like, special needs, practically.
Well, he was the one who turned him in. And
yeah.
They were saying his testimony, because they was, like, one of those leading interviews or something.
Yes.
Like, they were giving details to him, and
yes.
then he was corroborating the details after he had been hinted at the details, because he was not a smart guy.
Right. It's really sad. And, you know, and it's just funny, like I said, that it's like, no one's ever gonna apologize to them.
Yeah. No, he got that Alfred, what was it called? Like the Alfred plea or something, where it's like, yeah, you get to go free, but you never get any money, and we never have to admit we're wrong.
Exactly.
And
which is just like, well, and it's really interesting that there's the one guy that has like didn't want to take that deal because he was so like angry about it that it's like, I didn't do this.
Was it the young guy? The younger one?
I think it was the younger one. It's not Damien, and it's not the slow one. It's the other one.
I mean, it's really crazy. If you had watched this thing and seen what this kid, like, was like...
I would watch it, because the last podcast on Love was really good.
Like, it's not that there's, like, no way that he could have done it, but this kid, he just, like... He wasn't even at... I think he was a little younger, or at least a little more immature.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, dude, he didn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that you could say that about a lot of murderers, but it's like, I don't even know if he was, like, physically capable of doing it. This guy was, like, they even mentioned it in one of the things, like, these kids would have weighed, like, 60 pounds apiece that were murdered. Like, I don't think this kid could have moved the bodies. You know, he was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, he was just a kid.
Yeah.
I remember thinking that when I was in MEPS, joining the military, and seeing, like...
Some of the young guys.
Like, one of the young guys was, like, with, you know, that he had, like, one of those concave chests, you know?
Yes, yeah.
And you're just like, dude, you look like...
You look like you weigh nothing.
You look like you'd land on a stick and might poke through you.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty thin myself. And I was, like, seeing this kid, and he's got, like, had, like, a trash stash.
Yeah.
Like, one of those thin trash mustaches.
He probably had, like, just turned 18.
Yeah, but was even immature for that age.
Right.
And I was just like, dude, what are you doing here? Like, you should not be joining the army. You don't look like you're old enough to decide if you want to smoke cigarettes yet.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. It is interesting how often that stuff happens, though, with criminal cases where it's like, we have our guy. We're not interested in any kind of investigating of anybody else. It's like,
well,
can you try?
Wouldn't it be something, though, if... I mean, call me crazy, but if we lived in a system where, first of all, you couldn't hire lawyers. Like, they were just all assigned.
Uh-huh.
Like, you just got your public lawyer. There was no hiring lawyers unless you were, like, a corporation or something. Because I think a lot of it was, like, these people want to make a career out of this.
Absolutely.
You know, because afterwards they were like, "Oh, this guy's running for whatever," or the sheriff is going to
Oh,
run
for
this.
sure.
And it's just like they're just saying, they're just making. It just made me mad because I could tell just right at the outset how it was going to go, you know, because of the way the lawyers were being, and obviously I knew a thing or two about the case, but man, it was just really angering to see these things. I wonder if Metallica. It said at the end that the music was by Metallica. I wonder if they gave it to him because, you know, they were getting wrapped up in that stuff too. Like, oh, it's your fault.
And also, like, I know Pearl Jam, they did their, like, concerts for them and stuff, because it's just so fucking horrible.
Yeah.
And I think Dixie Chicks, too. I think they were, like...
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of those artists kind of dropped off, too, that they were like, how long are they going to be in prison? But I think the Dixie Chicks, like, stuck it out. Or at least, like, Natalie, the main one. I think she stuck it out.
When, I was saying before about, like, the feeling of it and why the feeling is so important. It's like, it was really clear that it was like those families needed to feel like revenge was being taken out on somebody. I'd be interested to know if any of them were interviewed after the fact, or if any of them became advocates, if they were just like, no, fuck those kids.
I sincerely doubt it, honestly. I mean, and only because... Again, there's no justice with that crime. There's no, like, they've had other forensic, investigators do their own, like, autopsy of it, and, like, nobody can really agree on anything about it. Like, I mean, whoever did that is long gone.
Yeah.
Like, not necessarily dead, but, like, you're not gonna solve that.
Oh, the thing that the younger kid's lawyer, I forgot to finish my point about this. The younger kid's lawyer, who was, I think, very obviously did not do it, and I do see how Damien hurt himself. For starters, he testified and kind of like was like, yeah, he said some things that didn't help him, you know.
It seemed like he thought it was a joke and didn't think anybody was going to convict him, and it's like, boy, you are really, really underestimating how much...
Do you know what state you're in?
Yeah, you are underestimating how much people want blood for this.
Yeah.
And how you are suspect number one.
Jury's mob rule, man.
Right. Oh, shit. Yeah, that's basically like what they had said on the last podcast, and that they were like, he was just kind of not taking it very seriously, which really fucked him.
Yeah, I remember his lawyer was talking to him, like, between something, and I guess there was some answer he gave during the testimony where he was kind of like, said like, yeah, or something, at this weird time where he was kind of like confirming something that actually wasn't true, like, oh yeah, he's like, well, I zoned out. I just wasn't really listening to the guy anymore.
Yeah.
And it was like...
You can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is your life, dude, which, I mean, but that also shows, even though, yeah, he was like kind of a hard-ass whatever, it's like he was really young too.
But the young kid's lawyer and the closing argument, and it was a little shitty because they did try them together, but at the end, he was like, there is no evidence that links my client to this.
Right.
And you're just gonna convict him on his association with Damien.
Right.
And to me, again, in debate, it's the kind of thing where, I just feel like, again, dumb people would hear that and be like, well, if you're trying to get him off the hook if you're trying to disconnect him from Damien, it must be because he's bad too. And that means that Damien did it. You know, like, just like taking it like 3 steps beyond, because he was like, it's guilt by association in the worst degree, because he was trying to find a route to get his client off.
Yeah.
And it was like, dude, but by taking that approach, you're kind of acknowledging that that guy is shady.
Yeah.
That he may have done it. And if you've done that, then they're just like, well, better safe than sorry. He probably was his friend. You know, he is his pal.
Yeah.
His best friend.
Yeah.
And, I think the lawyer for the other kid probably thought that Damien did it, to be honest.
Probably.
I don't think he thought that his client did it, but I think he thought the other kid did it.
It's just so sad.
Yeah, and it's really crazy because the other thing I think it emphasizes is, like, those crimes, like, they tear everybody apart.
They
Like,
do.
it's gonna tear your, your family apart. It's gonna tear your life apart.
Well, and like a crime like that, I'm sorry, but the FBI needs to be called in immediately. Not some podunk
Luna.
tiny town. What's she doing? Trying to get on your lap?
Yeah.
Some tiny
You wanna pause it for me?
town cops
Alright, I got it.
who probably know these kids
Hey, Luna.
and know their parents.
Come here.
I'm sorry, they're not going to be able to be impartial.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And, like, I kind of wonder about that with, like, the Delphi murders, that there's been no breaks in that case. And
Well, it's better than them inventing a suspect.
I
Or
know.
do you think that they're protecting somebody?
No, I don't know. I honestly don't know, because they still haven't even released the cause of death. They haven't.
Oh, they're trying to keep the detail in case they get a letter or something.
Well, I guess there's some things that are about it that, like, the way they died and the way they were positioned, from what I understand, only the murderer would know. So
Just gonna go and take these off.
that's fine. So there's stuff like that. Like, they're keeping it close to the chest, but, like, I don't know. I think that's kind of a mistake.
Yeah. Hey, Luna. Hey. Oh. She loves me. Alright, ready?
Yep. I
Yeah.
don't know.
It was pretty crazy because, like, it is really easy to abstract about people's rage about a murder from a
Mhm.
distance, because when you read the details of it,
Oh, it's horrible.
and it's like these,
That's a horrible crime.
and to hear just the fact, like, you have to wonder, it's just,
Yeah. I
like,
mean,
to imagine the degree to which, if this happened to you or your family, like, the way to which your life would be consumed by this horrible thing,
absolutely.
and you just have to relive those details, like, over and over and over.
Well, especially since it's such a, like, sensationalized case, because it is so heinous.
Yeah.
It's so famous that it's like if your loved one died on 9/11 and you're like, I never get to grieve in private, it's like
Yeah.
every year the whole country grieves with you. So there's footage of your family member dying, whether or not you can't see it, but they're in there.
Yeah.
And like, that's got to be really difficult. Yeah, no, it's messed up.
I mean, I think, and again, I know you've not read the New Testament or anything, but
No.
there is this feeling, certain works of fiction can do it, and movies and stuff, but I think books better, especially the Bible is probably the best
Says it
example.
was delivered. One second.
Oh, okay. I got Luna on my lap.
I can go get it.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Just you and me in the Twitch stream. Hey. Luna.
Hey, Rand. Hey, baby. Yeah. Well, it's also sad, too, like I said, which I know you haven't listened to Serial.
Oh.
Oh, shit.
Jeez, Luna. I'm gonna break something.
But
Ready? Oh, no, you're not.
even
Anyway.
though, yeah, I totally think Adnan did it, and I think Jay was involved, but like, the cops did that thing where they you know, led the witness. I don't know, whatever. Where they basically just like kind of fed him information. Like he
Mhm.
knew certain things about it. Like he knew where Hayes' car was. He knew where her body was. He knew what position her body was in. How else would you know that unless you were there? But there were other things that they told him so that they could fit their timeline
Mhm.
of the events. So then that's frustrating as well. But yeah, I still think Adnan completely did it.
Yep.
Take a shower tonight. Do you have a conference call tonight?
No. Yeah. So, what was I saying right before you went? Oh, so you don't listen to me?
Mm-hmm.
You don't listen to anything I say?
Yeah.
Ever?
Probably something about Damien or something.
Yeah.
Damn, it doesn't help that that's his name too.
Well, I think he like changed his name.
To Damien?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh Lord.
And I think he may have like lied also because, again, like, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how much of it's a fabrication or not, but he was saying like, oh, you know, I was getting really into the Catholic Church or something, and so I renamed myself after this Hawaiian saint or something that I don't know, did something cool or whatever.
Okay.
And of course, Damien though brings to mind the movie The Omen.
The right.
Right.
Yeah.
Would be
Nobody knows it as anything else.
Right. Would be the name that people would associate it with. So it was the kind of thing where, again, with the stupid crap, where you're like, they were trying to basically be like, oh, so you picked it for this reason and not this reason. And I don't know how sincere he was about that stuff, but it sounds like his family was saying stuff about him. Just kids go through phases.
They do.
And they were saying stuff about him like, oh, he took an interest in like maybe the priesthood or something for a period of time. Which, you know, no matter how unrealistic or insincere that interest was, you know, or is it the case that he just came up with this explanation as a way to cover the fact that he was trying to be, I'm a demon kid.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, kids do dumb shit, man. They say dumb shit.
Yeah.
It just.
And I mean, not to like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with, and it's funny because in this day and age, I don't think that these kind of things would happen. They might still happen in a place like that, but not in most of America, you know? Where it's like, this guy's got tattoos. This guy's got this, you know? But in the interview I saw with him, it was like 4 years after he was released or something, he's got like, you know, just kind of like symbol tattoos.
I hit my own banana.
Like symbol tattoos on his fingers and arms and stuff.
Which is just some prison shit. And
It could be, but they looked like not. Maybe they were prison tattoos. I don't know. But like the kind of thing where you're like, well, the first thing I thought was like, didn't you learn?
Well, I think one of the guys has like neck tattoos now.
Yeah, it's like.
It's like. Yeah.
You learn how much this kind of thing can hold you back.
No, because after a while, when you're fucking blind, after being in prison, you know.
No, I totally get that when
who
you think
gives
you're
a
gonna
shit?
die any day.
You're literally on death
you don't
row.
care
Who
about
gives a shit?
your tattoos anymore.
No.
But it was just the kind of thing where sometimes, like, it's the cover up.
Mm-hmm.
Like when somebody's like, if somebody just had a bunch of, pagan tattoos or something, And they were like, yeah, I just think they look really cool. But then if somebody had pagan tattoos and they were on trial and then they were like, well, actually, I got these because I'm really a good Christian. And
Right.
you know, the saint of whatever, you know, is actually, and it comes from the... I feel like people would just be like, you're just trying to cover this
You're
up
full of
because
shit.
you're bad.
Right.
And then they're going to double down on their
'Cause you're a
original
demon.
impression. Right, exactly. They're going to double
Yeah.
down on the assumption that they want to make
Right.
and say, no, you really are like Satan. And the reason you're trying to cover it up is because you know, like, because you did it.
I do wonder with these cases how often the jurors after the fact like regret their decision. Like I know with the Casey Anthony thing, I mean, I think people felt like their hands were tied because
Isn't that what she did to her daughter? Never mind. Go
we
on.
don't know what she did to her. They only found her skull with some duct tape on it
No.
and a creepy little fucking sticker that she put over the mouth, which is weird as shit. She's one of the creepiest fucking people ever.
Was she the one who was like dressing like her lawyer?
You might be thinking of Jodi Arias.
Yeah, I think that's
but
what
she
it
was
was.
like trying to look cute and forward, you know, whatever. But I think you're thinking of Jodi
Yeah,
Arias.
no, I think that's
Who
right.
was like a fucking psycho. But
Oh, right, she's the one who like stabbed her boyfriend 100 times.
yeah.
Shot him in the
She's
head.
really no, she's I think she stabbed him. She's really scary.
Yeah.
But with the Casey Anthony thing, they tried her for murder, even though, I mean, they know that Kaylee died, but they don't have a body, so you don't know how she died. So then, you know, you can't prove, you know, beyond a shadow of a doubt or whatever that she actually did it. Which instead they should have tried her for like manslaughter, because they would have gotten her.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, again, like I said, we don't even know how she died.
Yeah.
But I know that those jurors feel really shitty about it after the fact.
Yeah, I mean...
Also because they look like idiots, you know, because it's just like, what do you mean?
Even when people are found to be, like, demonstrably wrong about things, like, it's the same thing with, like, George W. Bush, where it was like, they kind of, in the moment, like, very clearly limit the accuracy of their perspective by putting in the blinders on. And then they say, well, I was making decisions based on the information that I had.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, but you were emphasizing certain information because you wanted to come to a certain conclusion.
Yes.
And so you emphasized, you know, Joe Schmo, like one dude who was the main witness in the Iraq has weapons of mass destruction argument. One guy, one person, like made that whole thing happen. And it's like, if you were not the kind of person who would believe just one person, you know, who probably had an agenda, if you weren't looking for that kind of excuse, you never would have made that conclusion. Or at the very least, you would have never said, oh, it was worth this huge effort, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
And, but that's the thing, is it's like, people find a way to wrap their mind around the thing that they want to happen. And they find a way to excuse themselves. So they'll be like, well, you know, I based my decision on the information we had at the time. It's kind of like with the stuff with all these, you know, black men who are getting killed. And it's like, you know, they find the one thing and they're like, oh, he was stealing some cigars from a gas station.
Ooh.
And
didn't realize that called for the death penalty.
Yeah, and that's something that they retroactively found.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The guy who shot him didn't even know about that or something like that. And the bigger indicator is not what was found, is not the evidence, but what you were looking for.
Yes.
And how you hoped that what you were looking for was going to justify your actions.
Right.
So the wrongness is not about the consideration, like whether Damien did or didn't do it. the wrongness about it is the fact that you were looking for him to have done it.
Correct. You
And
already had
these
that
things-
narrative.
Yeah, you had this narrative defined in a certain way to say, you know, because he was a Satan worshiper of all things.
He's creepy and he has long hair.
Yeah.
And he wears black clothes. He probably doesn't believe in God. Yeah, all this stupid shit.
And it's really funny because, like, I mean, maybe not country music at the time, but more so country music now. It's like how much country music it's like, we're gonna go get drunk and like do motocross and, you know, like do dangerous things and get smashed and whatever thing, and it's like, that's a good message.
Right.
That's a great message for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, there was one speech during the documentary, though, that almost got me, because it was an example of, like, a Christian actually being, like, a good Christian, and it was so sad. And even in the moment, it was really sad, because, like, afterwards, like, the guy's daughter, I don't know if he was, like, the parent of one of the kids. I think he got too much screen time, except for this thing, which was so sad. But he was like, I refuse to be a tool for sin and the devil or, you know, Satan or whatever. He's like, I refuse to. I don't know. He just said these things, and he's like, no, I'm gonna see. Like, I'm gonna see my boy again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna see my mother, and I'm gonna see, you know, all these people again, and I refuse to want them to suffer or something like that. I refuse to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really sad.
It is really sad.
But at the same time, it's like, I mean, it's hard to be like this. Man, I'm getting smashed here.
Yeah, I am too.
It's just one of those things where you kind of know there's, like, a way you are supposed to be, and, like, you really don't want to be that way, but you have to get over this stuff, you know?
It's so complicated, because it's like, I mean, I understand the want for vengeance and seeing somebody punished. I get it, you know? I mean, that's obviously a very American thing too, and the whole, like, good versus bad, right, wrong, yada yada. But it's also just like, kind of like what that girl had said in my class the other day, where, you know, if somebody is executed, someone else has to be a part of that execution. You're not letting the person just kill themselves, so you're just pushing more suffering out into the world. But some of these people who do, like, hang on to their hatred and, you know, everything like that, again, not faulting people for that, but it's just like, you're pushing so much extra
Negative
energy,
everything.
whatever. It's just so.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so much harder to hang on to that. But
Yeah,
I've never lost a child, so I don't know. You know.
I mean, it's crazy, but it's like that will literally take over your life.
Yeah, that will eat you up. Yes.
And
yes, it will.
You will just think about. I mean, I have problems with that, hanging on to things.
I know you do.
And in a big way. And oh gosh, I'm just getting rocked.
But I also don't think that, like, I think it's really annoying that people are like, they do push forgiveness, like, you have to forgive. It's like, I don't think that you do. I don't think you should hang on to your anger so much, but I don't think people necessarily deserve forgiveness.
I think what it is with forgiveness is that it gives, like, this kind of finality to something.
Right.
It's kind of like
closure or something.
Yeah, in this weird way. You know, people, you know.
Like, if I'm murdered, you don't have to forgive my murderer. It's, you know, that's stupid.
I mean, it's kind of like, I feel like in this weird way, and I do think some people are above it, but in this weird way, your actions can kind of become your mindset about it, and you just have to imagine that in order to face the person who did this terrible thing to you,
Mhm.
and to be able to say, I forgive you for that.
Mhm.
Like, imagine how above it, over it, above the thing that happened, you would have to be able to do that. And I think in this weird way that it allows people to rise above it
Yeah.
because of that.
You want to do
Even-
one more?
Yeah, we can do one more. Even if they're not over it. And, it's tough. It's really tough. It's really tough to...
This is a very, very exciting conversation for stream.
I'm sure that our no viewers are very interested in it.
Just saying, it's funny.
Well, we are doing this activity for ourselves
Yes.
so that we can discuss things that we like to discuss. And we have fun discussing. It'll be our... Is that an Angry Bird? Oh, it's Wario. It's kind of like an Angry Bird.
Kinda.
Going back to that Zelda thing.
Woo, I love Zoom.
Super Smash Bros. Comes out tomorrow!
Whoop whoop. Yeah. No, I saw this story. Speaking of forgiveness, my god. And I don't even know all the details of it. I don't think anybody knows all the details of it. But this woman, she was adopted, and her adopted mom died when she was like 5 or something. And her new stepmom was really abusive, whatever, yada yada. She never knew what happened to her biological mom. So this woman's like 69, and she took a 23andMe DNA test and found her biological mom.
She was 69 when she did it. This
just happened.
Wow.
This year. Her mom is still alive, but get this shit. The mom was told when her daughter was born that she had died at birth. I don't know what happened, if the hospital took her baby, if somebody took her baby, but this whole time she thought her daughter was dead. Her mom's 84.
Wow.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Yes.
Why?
So
How?
this happened actually quite a bit. All happened to a lot of women of color.
I was gonna say, was she black?
No, they're white. They're from the woman was from Gary though, which is interesting. No, they're white. But what would happen is, so there used to be these things called like twilight births, where basically the women were like so on drugs, like just so that they wouldn't feel anything, that like they would be told stuff like this, like, oh, your baby didn't live or whatever, and sometimes babies would get switched at birth, or same thing, like they would just be stolen.
Or they accidentally sent a baby home with one couple and
Yeah.
forgot to give it to the other one.
Well, no, I mean,
Did
like,
you guys come in here with a baby?
it's, but shit like that happened, and I don't even know how, like, how you can, like, I mean, it sounds shitty, but, like, how you can just not be angry, like, with God for something like that.
Yeah.
Thank God for 23andMe, though. So thank you, God, for that.
Thank you, Darwin.
But yeah, that's amazing.
That is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because it's been a returning thing in my class, talking about how genetics is about to turn a corner and into crazy territory, and we're gonna have some
Creepy
big
land.
questions to answer in the next couple years, and then
Uh-huh.
literally, like the final week is like they just announced that the first genetically engineered baby has been conceived or whatever.
Although, didn't they kind of lie about that a little bit? Weren't there some things?
I didn't really read the details. I saw some things that it was it was I think I have no idea. I think they used a CRISPR. Who knows, man? That stuff is so dangerous. So dangerous to the future.
Well, it's also kind of like with that story of the woman who had gave birth, but she had a uterus transplant from a woman who had died. Which is just like, obviously, like, I don't want children. I don't know what it's like to want children and not be able to have them, how painful that is. But it's also just, like, I wonder if insurance covered that. I think it happened
that.
I think it happened in Brazil. It wasn't even in the United States.
I don't think that would have been like 100% elective.
Yeah, like that is so expensive. It's so.
Yeah, I don't think those crazy experimental procedures are covered.
I mean, it's just so.
Oh yeah, well, it's gonna be $1 million.
Yeah.
I should look up. I remember a couple years ago, and they must have done it or decided not to do it. But and obviously, it would have been big news if they did it. So that it either didn't work or hasn't happened yet. But they had somebody lined up to get the first body transplant.
Oh shit.
Like they're gonna.
What?
Yeah, I'm not kidding.
Like were they paralyzed and they were waiting to get a body or something?
No, well, it's not unlike that. Basically, I think the plan, they were going to have it was going to be like a 48-hour operation or something.
Jesus Christ.
And I think the plan was, this guy had some kind of something in his body. I don't think it was paralysis, but he's going to die. The guy's going to die from something that's going on in his body. Like 100% he's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on the hook for this experimental procedure where they're going to remove his head, I'm pretty sure, and put it onto another body.
What the
I feel like I'm
fuck?
just naming something off Reddit at this point.
Uh-huh.
You know, but I'm pretty sure the gist of it was they were gonna like scrape some stem cells on there with a butter knife and put the head on it and hope that it just took.
But they might wind up with 2 dead people. That's a real if that's the case. I feel like that would have been really big fucking news if this happened.
No, I'm sure they haven't done it yet because it would have been.
Yeah.
It would have been the biggest.
That would be the biggest news ever.
Medical
Yeah.
discoveries or accomplishments of all time.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a holy fuck. That's a risk.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the guy is like terminal or something.
Yeah. So it's like, well,
I know he's gonna die.
You might die.
I should look into this before I misinform all our loyal Twitch viewer.
Okay,
we should keep that should be the running joke as we keep accidentally recombining the plural.
Viewers.
Our very loyal Twitch viewer.
Which is ourselves.
Hey, Summer thought those highlights were funny.
Hey.
I mean, that one video is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Fucking go.
Yeah.
I should look up to see if that happened.
Yeah. Crazy ass. Did you see the story? It's the most like 2018 dystopian story. A robot at an Amazon factory, I think it was a factory or a warehouse, accidentally broke open a bottle of bear spray and sprayed like 28 people. They had to go to the hospital.
Oh my god.
Yes! Is that not the most like...
So it picked it up and sprayed them afterwards?
Something happened.
So it opened up in a box, took it off, started spraying people.
Yeah, or a box broke open or bottles broke open or something, but it's a robot's fault. And, yeah, a bunch of people are hospitalized for that. But I just saw the headline, I was just like, this is like Mad Libs, you know, like...
Wouldn't it be a better idea to, like, have the people handle the dangerous
you
substances?
would think, but, you know...
Like in the warehouse, they're like, okay...
No, we'll let robots do fucking anything.
And then again, I did see a video today of, like, a guy backing a forklift up in a warehouse, and he bumped into something, and then it caused the entire, like, wing...
Everything to
of
collapse.
all the shelves to collapse.
Human error, man.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Robot error, so they are not infallible. Oh, fuck. Speaking of which, we'll have to watch that highlight. Yeah, I saw that, and I'm like I said, this is the most 2018 Mad Lib headline ever. Robot sprays 28 people with bear spray in an Amazon warehouse. Wild. I want nothing to do with robots.
We got Alexa.
No. Stop.
Alexa, stop. She turns off.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with them.
Just waiting for the day that they somehow accidentally record us while we're in bed, doing nothing.
Uh-huh.
That'll be awkward.
I guess there's like a robot. There's like a robotic surgery that our department does at work.
Yeah?
I don't know anything about it.
Well, is it done with a machine, or is it done, a robot does it? Because that's two different things. Some guy could be on the joystick, you know.
I'll have to look it up.
I said you piqued my interest.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Better.
The doctor who did that creepy smile, I showed you that video, he's the one who does it.
I'll save that on our stream later.
I'm just getting... Oh, that kind of missed me. Okay.
Donkey Kong.
It was so exciting talking true crime with you.
What, just now?
Yes. Because you're not interested in true crime.
Well, I'm not interested in, like, the glamour aspect of it.
What do you mean the glamour?
Just, like, there's definitely kind of a, like, interest in the gruesomeness. I don't like talking about... I don't know. It's not the gruesome... I'm more interested in the justice aspect of it. The argumentation aspect of it. You know what I mean? Not the... These people did this terrible thing.
Oh, I like both.
You know, these people did this terrible crime. And
I like
they're this crazy, and they're this whatever.
I like all of those weird details because, like... I feel like we're... And I don't know how much... psychologists, how many theories there are about stuff like this, but this idea that it's like, oh, well, murderers, they're crazy, or serial killers, they're crazy. It's like, not all of them are crazy. Like, just because they don't, you know, they're quote-unquote not compatible with society, which they're not, that doesn't mean that they're not rational thinking people.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I guess this is, like, cultural relativism, like, on speed, but it's like...
Don't say that to a jury, though. Murderers are people, too. You're guilty.
I'm just saying, you know, it's just like, but it's fascinating seeing the lengths to what regular people will go, you know, that it's like, this is a person, you know, they probably were raised in a fucked up way, whatever, but it's still interesting. And I think when you do, like, you know, paint them as, like, a monster, which, don't get me wrong, these people are horrible, but it just, like...
Well, I think the most damaging thing about that is...
It hides the monsters that are there every day.
Yeah, exactly.
That are around us every fucking day.
I think the problem with that is, like...
These people aren't extraordinary.
You get this, like, warped, like... It's kind of like... When people have these, like, warped Hollywood versions of what things are like, they miss the real threats.
Uh-huh.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, he listens to metal music, and he does this. It's like, okay, well, the real murderer's getting away right now.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So,
yeah, exactly.
Enjoy that.
Yeah. Or, I mean, and there definitely are people that, like, the way they're fascinated by serial killers, it's like they act like they're rock stars, which is just, like, really creepy and weird. That stuff gives me the creeps, but...
Yeah. The only killer who's a rock star is definitely Charles Manson. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm saying that because he released an album.
No, it would be Phil Spector.
Oh, right.
Although, yeah, that motherfucker might be a serial killer, honestly. I don't think that's the first person he's killed, I'll be honest.
Who was it he killed?
His girlfriend.
Oh.
Or fiance or something.
I don't keep track of all the murderers.
Something like that, yeah. Well, I mean, he pulled guns on everybody.
Who hasn't? Not me. I'm just kidding.
Did you do that for a living?
No, I'm not in the infantry. Oh my gosh, it's almost 9.
I know, I gotta take a shower.
Oh my god.
Ready to be done?
We did it very poorly.
We did it. What? You sleepy?
No. Not even a little bit.
Well, I'm done.
Alright. I'll just keep playing. Just keep streaming.
Okay. Have fun.
I'm just kidding. I'm also done. Good.